writers and journalists in general. I think most of you who have talked to me by now know that I don't have media-itis. I think that that's a horrible disease for someone to have in a position like mine. I've told you all I'm always on the record, and I will also tell you that I have spent a significant career in the entertainment and in the sports business, and I've never been misquoted. Every stupid thing you've read in print I have said. Now, I rue some of the things that I have said, but, this whole stuff of being misinterpreted or misquoted is really my responsibility and not yours. So, I have thoroughly enjoyed the relationship that we've had along the way. Being in a job like this has been a lifelong quest and dream for me in many ways. And I'll tell you a short anecdote of what occurred for me. I think it was in my junior year of Catholic military boarding school, and I was a Christian Brothers boy, and went through high school in a rather disciplined environment. And in I think it was either a philosophy class or a theology class. I can't remember which. We had a brother Norbert who was teaching the class, was trying to instill in us the fact that we couldn't go through life without goals. And that we really ought to have a plan for our life, and we really should have goals. And he went around the room that day and he asked people, well, what their goals were in life. And you would have thought you were at a Miss America pageant. The guys were standing up and saying, world hunger, and I want peace in the world, and I want, and it was just sickening. It really was. So afterwards, we gathered in a lounge that we had afterwards, and then somebody stood up and said, we just spent 45 minutes telling a pack of lies. Do we really have goals? And as guys are prone to do, one jerk would stand up and say one stupid thing, and another guy would say something else stupid. And I said, well, I have 3 goals in life. And they said, well, what was that? I remember it like it was yesterday. I said, goal number 1, I want to be quoted in Sports Illustrated. Okay. Goal number 2, I want to make $1 million. And goal number 3, I want to lose my virginity to Bridget Bardot. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So,
and how's Bridget?
On that, and again, I wasn't off the record on that one either. So without further ado, I know I'll probably get smacked around the head a little bit if I don't make the formal announcement of what I've pledged to do today. And today we're very, very pleased to announce the extension of our partnership relationship with Nike. We have been in a relationship that has a term that ends or had ended on at the end of August of this year. One of the larger tasks on my plate was to determine whether we were going to go forward and extend that relationship, or indeed go out in the marketplace and seek other partners in the apparel and the footwear categories. We commenced those negotiations last fall. One of the interesting things, I'll tell you a couple of elements about it that I think that are germane and that are important. I insisted that the first negotiating session, which comprised a couple of people on our side and a couple of people on their side, was a session which I said it's forbidden to talk numbers. I want to talk words, okay? And we're going to leave numbers to another day. And the thing that was important to me was to see whether we had a common philosophy with regard to the conduct of the sport, whether our ideas and our ideals were in concert with one another before we went forward. And we had a rather wide-ranging 2.5-hour session, that one in Beaverton, talking in terms of where we saw our own corporate interests, where we saw our own values being, and where we saw them going into the future. And it's important to know that it was a very honest expression of where we were and where we wanted to go. And at the end of it, we looked at one another and we said, you know, we really have a basis for going forward because our interests are almost totally aligned. So that formed the framework for what was a series of very difficult discussions. I would be remiss in saying to you that, if I didn't say to you that when I first arrived upon the scene, I thought that several of our assets, particularly this asset, was undervalued and we weren't getting full value for it. We knew that in our forward-looking plans, particularly with regard to the issue of Project 30 and a bottom-up revamping of how we prepared our teams internationally, and indeed how we conducted the whole business of development, that we were quite sure after that conversation that might strike an attractive chord with our potential partner, and that we might find some avenues in which they could underwrite some of the programs that we had incorporated in the Project 30 report. We also had some additional elements which we wanted to aggressively look at from the standpoint of growth, not the least of which is the merchandising business, and reached an uncommon and very creative way for us to take our merchandising business and probably within the next 18 months treble the level of business that we're doing merchandising, not only on site but also online. We walked down a path to almost impasse. I don't want to minimize the fact that the selling atmosphere in general, not this one in particular, but the selling atmosphere in general was, I think the only way of describing it is rather toxic in the course of the last 6 months. But at the end of the day, we're able to overcome some of the hurdles, forgive me for using trite track expressions, but some of the hurdles and obstacles that were put before us, and reached agreement on a very unique deal. I'm going to touch on some of the high points.